So the resurrection is a dramatic experience. Jesus has risen from the dead. Amen? Amen. Amen. So this is something massive that's happened. Death has been conquered. Death has not the final word. Life is the final word. Victory is God's victory. As he sits on the stone, that death has been conquered. And it's like a new Big Bang. So it's like, boom, the resurrection has appeared. And I wrote a rap about this once upon a time, a while ago. And it goes a little bit like this. It's a bit dramatic. There's the Big Bang Theory that created the world, boom. Jesus risen from the tomb. This is more than a theory, so give the spirit some room. Because Jesus has arrived, he is alive. He has shattered the darkness with his marvelous light. So bright, what a sight, transforming the night. So I had this experience last year, a bit of a resurrection experience that I wanted to share with you. And so it was at my 30-day retreat, and I've been going for about 2 weeks on this retreat, and we spent a week reflecting on the Passion. So we were entering into his sorrow, his grief that he was experiencing. So I was reflecting on that and really getting into it and finding myself just confronted when Jesus dies on the cross, just the injustice of this experience that I've been walking with for a week. Just how could this happen? And I imagine myself as the disciples not knowing that the resurrection is going to come in a few days. And so I found myself in this place of just real grief. I was really experiencing that. And so we finished that week, and then the next week was reflecting on the resurrection. And so I was finding myself in this kind of transition time, and I was like, I've been with Jesus in the sorrow, how am I going to be all joyful all of a sudden? I'm feeling really down. So I thought what I'll do is I'll get up really early in the morning on this first day when we reflect on the resurrection, and before the sun comes up, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go up on a hill and watch the sunrise. So I woke up the next day and got up early, got out of my bed and got changed. And it was in winter, so I put all of my warm clothes on and had my little lamp and walked outside and went up the journey up this hill. And I sat under a tree, and so I was waiting there in the darkness, thinking it was a bit crazy that I was sitting up here. And I waited there, it was about 20 minutes, and then the sun was, I could see the light starting to break. And so light was kind of appearing around me. And I was looking over the hills and the light was starting to come. And I could see things a bit clearer. And so in the sky, I saw clouds everywhere. So I didn't even see the sun. I was hoping this would be my resurrection moment where I'd enter into this joy and I'd see this beautiful sunrise, and just the beauty would just draw me in and sort of be able to put that grief away. So I wasn't really feeling it. I felt really disappointed. I felt ripped off, really. I got up really early, tried to be a good little retreating. And so I walked down the hill, and I see these little flowers. There were some little wild flowers, like yellow flowers. So I thought, I might as well get something out of this walk. So I grabbed a few flowers and then went back to where I was staying, and I put the flowers on my table. So anyway, the next day, got up again. I got up early, and so the sun hadn't come up yet, and I was like, I'm not going up on that hill today. I'm just going to sit on my seat, put the heater on, and I turned the light on behind me. And so I started to try and enter into this Easter celebration. And so I started to reflect on the road to Emmaus. So I had that in front of me, sitting on my chair. And as I was reading about these disciples as they experienced the cross and the cross and Jesus' death, and their faces downcast, and they're walking along the road. As I was reading that, I kind of looked up at my table, And I saw these little flowers, and they were like kind of downcast. And they were like, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, like sort of what's going on in my little story. And so as I keep reading, and the two disciples are walking, and Jesus comes up to them and starts to open up the scriptures to them, and they reflect back that their hearts are starting to burn. So I'm sitting there and I look up and I see the flower starting to lift up, and it's kind of attracted to this light behind me, my lamp. And so I keep reading and I keep looking up at this flower, and it starts to open up. And the petals, I never kind of noticed this stuff, but the petals just opened up and they folded kind of so as much as they possibly could to this light. And as I was reading the story of these disciples opening up to the risen Lord, I was like, okay, God, you're saying something to me here. Through this little flower opening up before my eyes, not the big sunrise that I was expecting, this kind of glorious morning, but it was in this little flower that God gave me some joy. And I was really touched by what was happening, that God would come and speak to me in a really intimate and a personal way. And so as I started this homily talking about the drama of this Easter event, I've realised just from that experience, and as I've reflected on this gospel today, that this earthquake that happened was when the angel came down, and the light was the angel's face shining. That it wasn't caused by the resurrection as such, it was this angel coming down with this message. That the resurrection itself, there was no one there to see it. It happened in the tomb, and there was no one around. It was in this quiet place in the darkness that no one noticed. That Jesus was risen, that he came back to life, into a new life. And that it was in this quiet place that life entered into the world. And as I've just been thinking about just the story that God in our history, in our human history, it seems to me the way that God comes to us, not so much in flashy lights and booming sounds, but he comes to us in small kind of insignificant ways sometimes. So when we think of Abraham, he's a guy from way out nowhere, and God calls him to come to the Holy Land that it would be. And he didn't call some big mighty person, he called Abraham to follow and to have faith, and he goes. And then later on, the people of Israel, they're just a small, insignificant group of people really, that God chooses to reveal himself to them. And then Jesus himself comes to us, comes as one of us. Someone who was easily unnoticed by those around him and by the authorities. They didn't know who he was. And he dies as a criminal. And then when he comes to life, this central truth of our faith is not witnessed by anyone. It seems so strange that God would do this in this way. Why wouldn't he let everybody know? But it's only the few that he chooses, and he reveals himself to his disciples. And it's through their faith that we rely on. And I've been wondering, why is this? Why didn't God just kind of come in amazing glory that we'd be able to see and all believe? And it's God chooses to come, not in a way to overwhelm us from the outside, from kind of external powers. He wants to give us the freedom to be able to respond to him. So he comes to us in small ways, in weak ways, in vulnerable ways, in the hope that we would be able to respond to him. That we'd be able to say yes to him. So tonight, on this night of nights, Jesus comes to us and he knocks on our hearts, gently on our hearts. In the hidden place of our hearts, where can be darkness or just a place that no one else knows, Jesus comes and he's here with us in that place. And all he does want is just for us to be able to say yes to him. To open the door. He's not going to force himself into our lives. So tonight, as we reflect on this amazing gift, to be able to give God permission, give Jesus permission to come alive in us tonight. That this great gift of his life dwells within us. And he wants us to be able to say yes with all that we are, so that this life can flow out to the world. That this message of life can flow out to all people.